Wanking in the Lake District by Eric Thistlethwaite. Wank 51, Little Briggate to Little Pig Hill. It's a breezy afternoon as I step off the number 9 from Charlie and breathe in the lovely lilac and shit-scented air around the village green. Little Briggate Centre Circle has been freshly mowed, I notice, but not by an elderly simpleton riding a municipal tractor, no, but by a herd of cows roaming freely about the village. What's going on? I look down the high street. There's an English longhorn sauntering into the beer garden at the Sticky Vicar. A herd of Herefords are licking the glass at the My Girl Lollipop sweet shop next to the Curl Up and Die salon. And at the top of the street, a young policeman is poking a shotgun through the side window of his wee-wooing Astra and barking at the cows to get down. I see a cattle truck parked in the lay-by opposite the bus stop. The ramp is down and a lock is hanging loose. "Rusty latch," I say to the driver, who's running around waving a cattle prod. "Aye," he replies, zapping a sprightly-looking heifer in the rump. "Third time this week." The poor lad looks frazzled. I think about lending him a hand, but then I notice a swarm of villagers spilling out from the shops in the side streets. Each of them is armed with a prod, a pole or a spike. One of them has a medieval-looking orb held high over his head. "Kill the beast," he shouts. "Oh, is that a mace?" I have a huge smile on my face as I stride towards Briggate Beck. It gives me immense satisfaction to see the local community pulling together in a time of crisis. Amid the cries of the cattle and the cheers of the crowd, I walk over to the miniature bridge straddling the bubbly creek. I can't wait to start this wank. I've been cooped up inside for 3 days now, waiting for Mother Nature to cry herself to sleep. Blimey, she's rained, thundered, lightninged. Anyone would think it were a time of the month. She's had a right mope on. It's like the crotchety hag would rather all her creeks went uncrossed, her rivers unrowed, her mountains unclimbed, and her bushes unwanked. Well, there's no chance of that. Not if I have anything to do with it. I have a right throbbing. After 3 days of watching my Downton Abbey box set, with Lady Mary spreading it all over the manor, I'm just aching to set the table and polish my fork. I watch the cute little duckies bobbing about in the beck. It's a lovely sight. The gentle plip-plop of their playful bobbing is interrupted only by the vroom of the chainsaw that's whirring away behind me. What now? I look across the street to see a hungry heifer sidling up to the counter at the sweet shop. She sniffs the bonbons, then wanders over to the Chocolicious section at the back. I watch as she grabs a mouthful of something long and skinny. Oh, is that a curly whirly? Tragic. Arthur Granley, the village butcher, is weaving about behind, buzzing a chainsaw over his head, but doesn't seem to be spoiling her appetite. She just brushes past him and tries to lick the wrapper off of Terry's chocolate orange. When it won't budge, she turns around and takes a shit all over the flying saucers. That's a shame. I turn back to the ducks. There's a dozen or so diving and bobbing and flapping. Their playful plip-plopping is a delight to behold, and just what I need to get me in the mood for my wank. My wank today is a 2-stroke tramp, just enough to get my blade cranked and give my teeth some bite. Brrr. The heifer is ambling out now, I notice, and chowing down on a... What's that, a Toblerone? Good choice. I open up my backpack and check my supplies. Gatorade? Check. Trail mix? Check. Scotty's 3-ply? Check. I'm all set. I tip my cap to the ducks, tighten my straps and stride away. Quack, quack, say the ducks. Oh, I will, I reply, I will. I pass by the window of the corner shop on Bumberley Lane. It's plastered with signs for the latest lottery draw. Double up and win, you got to be in it to win it. 2 for 1 Tuesdays, get your numbers today. Saturday night bingo, St Peter's Parish Hall, get 4 corners, win £5. Oh, that's not bad. I know the vicar at St Peter's, Father Joe. He's a big fan. I met him in the cemetery a few years back when I was scattering my ashes behind the crypt. "Eric there, Eric," he said, as I popped my cap back on the urn. "I'm sorry," I replied. I couldn't understand a word he was saying. "He's from Whitley Bay." I said, "Eric there, lad." "Aye, it is unseasonably warm." We chatted for a while as we weaved among the grieving widows and blubbering orphans, and bit by bit he was able to make himself understood. When we were done, he had made me promise to expand my literary horizons and expound on my theological musings. "I know you love Jesus," he said, I think, "but what else makes you tick?" Well, I went home that night and dug deep into my soul, and 2 months later my memoir was born. Please note, copies of Eat, Pray, Wank are now available in all good adult bookstores. I have a complicated love affair with Jesus, if I'm honest. Well, I'm not a fan of all the incense. Ever since my mum blackmailed me into getting baptised when I was 17, I told her not to look in my knicker drawer. I've had an allergic reaction to the smell. The last time I caught a whiff, I blacked out. But more importantly than all the churchy potions, I just don't believe the bugger ever existed. And yet, I still go to church. Not so much when there's a mass on, no. I prefer the quieter moments and the opportunity for some deep personal self-reflection. "Well, you can't bash your bishop in the belfry when there's a baptism going on." There's a picture in the shop window of a scraggly old fella with the words "missing" plastered over his head. It's poking out from underneath an advert for a babysitter and a man with a van. Oh dear. I walk on. I don't know why they put up these missing posters. What's the point? There's always some bugger missing. My neighbour Terry lost his cat 2 weeks ago. I told him he probably went out to look for his wife who ran away 3 years back. Missing people turn up eventually, and if they don't, the smell usually gives them away. I quick step through the council estate, crossing the street every 50 yards or so to avoid the rabid dogs. You'd think these mutts were strays, all skin and bone and snarling, but rest assured, if you try to feed them, 2 things will happen. 1, you'll lose a hand, and 2, some huffy scroat will come rushing out of a ginnel, waving a baseball bat and barking at you to leave Rommel alone. Welcome to Brexit Britain. I scamper away from a scrappy Doberman with a studded collar and a tattoo of a teardrop under its eye. I don't know why it's wearing a collar if they never leash it. I think the locals let the dogs run wild round here so they can patrol the neighbourhood. Although quite what they're protecting, I have no idea. There's nothing to steal. Unless you're a rag and bone man. Every garden has a burnt-out object planted in the middle. Motorcycle there, caravan there, car. And, hold on, what's this? Is that a body? Christ, it's still smoking. I quicken my step. Just look at these houses. I've seen more curb appeal in downtown Mogadishu. I went to Somalia a few years back to start a sustainable farming initiative, Waste Not Wank Not. It's gone tits up now. The country's in rough shape, but there's some lovely countryside. In fact, it were the rivers, not the trails, that gave me the inspiration for the first chapter in my latest series, Off the Beaten Path. And I have to say, there's barely a day goes by I don't wish I was still whitewater wanking in the whiter too. I stroll past a huddle of young lads with their hoods pulled high over their heads. I'm careful to avoid all eye contact. Such are the rules in neighbourhoods with Nazi dogs. Eye contact, or worse still conversation, has a tendency to incite random acts of violence in young men of this ilk. It's not entirely clear why this happens, but I, for one, would certainly lend my support to any experimentation the local authorities might wish to conduct on the subject, preferably with live specimens such as these. As I run the gauntlet, I'm met with a cacophony of grunts, sneers and spittle. I'm pretty spry for a fat man, so it takes very little effort to angle my body left and right and skirt the avalanche of expectorant. Once past the gobby yobs, I take a sharp left and stride through the gate marking the entrance to Battersby Woods. I'm safe. I look around. The woods are deserted. The soft packed gravel path is barely scuffed. There's just a single set of footprints. The only sound is the horror show creaking of the aspens and the death throe groaning of the pines. It's lovely. I stroll ahead and let the woods swallow me up. There's a breath of air shivering up my leg as the breeze breaches the canopy of the forest, trickles down the trunks of the trees, and tickles my dogwoods. Ooh. I would have tucked my pants into my socks, but I'm wearing khakis today. It's a good look, well, except for my stubby legs and bulbous lumps on my knees. Oh dear. I follow the trail through an archway of spruce. It's dramatic. The branches bend and mesh directly over my head, giving me my own personal guard of honour. I walk along a lush rug of pine needles carpeting the floor, nodding to my left and my right, pretending I'm a gallant knight returning from the field of battle to meet a grateful king. "All hail Sir Eric," shouts the crowd. Well, in my head. My medieval musings are rudely interrupted by an impressive mound of deerscat lining the edge of the path. Fucking Nora, what did that buck have for dinner? I hold my breath as I round the corner into a clearing. As I breathe again, I notice an unusual scent in the air. What is it? Well, it's not deer shit, no. I once memorised an entire edition of Animal Pheromones 2000 as research for my Bogs of Britain anthology, Cottaging in the Cotswolds. The reek is rancid. Smells like a randy badger. I stumble over a tightly knotted tree root poking out of the path. It looks like a disembodied hand crawling out from a grave. It sends me tumbling headfirst into a fat Albert spruce. Oh dear. It's been a while since I've hit the deck. Well, a couple of days anyway. I defy anyone to keep to their feet whilst taking a shortcut through the nunnery on Haggerty Lane. It wouldn't be so hard if it weren't for the 10-foot railing you have to climb if you want to get a good view of the shower block on the second floor. And it wouldn't be so hard if Sister Briggate wasn't chasing me down with a 4-foot crucifix held high over her habit. Christ, I'm glad I never caught her in the shower. As I clamber to my feet, I spy something poking out of the undergrowth to my left. It looks familiar. Is that a mushroom? Ah, yes. That smooth red dome needs no introduction. Amanita muscaria, I presume. I walk across. This will be nice. I can parboil it with a sprinkle of parmesan and a dash of pepper and make a lovely omelette. I used to live off the land a few years back after losing the rights to my groundbreaking Apollo 11 expose, Wanking on the Moon. I'm not surprised the National Aeronautics and Space Administration got a little testy. Why wouldn't they? You don't want pictures of Buzz and Neil getting their moon rocks off plastered all over the papers. Even if that is what happened, which it is. I sent them proof. A dozen grainy Polaroids shot through the lens of my Scheifspiegler telescope, which I were using to illuminate my spanking in the Moonlight series, paddling the Pennine Way. One peeked through the glass on top of Pennygent, and I knew what I was looking at. A dozen soppy wank rags floating about in the sea of tranquility. Disgusting. I can't blame the NASA lads, though. 2 weeks cooped up in that capsule with the tackle flapping around like a balloon. It's enough to give anyone blue balls. And I don't blame them for leaving a mess. No bugger wants to see a black and white razzle and a wad of wank rags in the Moon Museum. I sweep through the ferns and bend over to pluck up the ruby red fungi. Oh, lovely. I pop it in my backpack and wade back through the foliage to the path. As I reach the crest of the rise, the wind tickles the hairs on my thighs and ripples up the inside of my khakis. It is not right to feel this erotic outside of your neighbour's garden or a cosy hedge. A man's arousal is a personal thing. Unless you're into dogging, and then fair play to you. No, you can't close the curtains out here. But still, it's like I said in my Golfing in the Buff bestseller, 50 Ways to Squeeze Your Putter. Wank like nobody's watching. But first, make sure nobody's watching. Another breeze bobbles up my crack. Yikes, that were a bit too close to the hole. I need to find a nice sandy bunker, and quick. I scramble over a fallen tree and squint up the path. It drops off just ahead, I notice. I stride on and reach the lip of a ditch. Whoa. It's not quite a sandy bunker. It looks more like a crater on the moon with its craggy ledges and dusty bottom, but it is wide and clean with good sightlines all around. But most importantly, as another summer flutter wriggles through the slit of my frillies, it'll do. I jump in and flop onto my back. Come in, Houston. The eagle has landed. Choke point 1. Battersby Bunker. I peer over the edge of my chokehold and scan the horizon. I feel like a soldier waiting for an ambush. Incoming! It's all clear. I lie back and check my weapon. I know one thing for sure as I fiddle with my zipper and feel the wisp of warm air circling my barrel. I won't be running out of ammo. I open up the chamber and spin it round. Oh, that's a lovely breeze. Crawl up onto my knees and gently squeeze the trigger. My chamber is fully loaded now. All I need is the order to fire. Ready? Oh. Aim. Woof. What? The ambush is swift and painful. It comes from the side and knocks me flat on my back. I flail around, trying to bat away the slimy, sniffling snout and slobbering all over my nozzle. Get off! Whose mutt is this, I wonder, as the bloodhound jumps off and tucks into my granola? Rufus! Oh, heck. I pack up my troubles and scramble out of the hole just as a dark shape looms up on the horizon. Rufus grabs a nut brittle and tears off back the way I came. I stride up the path. Now then, I say, as I pass the man in black. Aye, says the dog walker, spinning around. I start to sway as I turn about and try to focus on the bloke's face. I've no idea what he just said. He's wearing a dog collar, I notice. I think about asking him why he's wearing a collar and his dog is not when, everything goes black. I wake up staring into the face of an old friend. Father Joe? Aye, replies the priest, jerking out a hand. Aye. He pulls me to my feet. What happened? I think you fainted, like. I'm sorry. I think you fainted. I sniffed the air. Hold on, I know that smell. Careful now. Incense. I crumpled to the floor again, but this time I managed to stay awake. I hauled myself up a few feet downwind and gently wafted away the pong. Father Joe asked me if I've seen his bloodhound. At least that's what he appears to be miming, whilst various guttural noises are gushing out of his mouth. I point to the rump, hot-footing it towards the fungi 200 yards down the path. Hey, that'd be her, like. Okay. I tip my cap as he strides away. That were close, I think, as I head back up the path. How many Hail Marys would that have cost me? As I weave through the puddles by the musty marsh, I look down. Oh dear. It seems that in my rush to avert detection, I have put my shorts on backwards. My khakis look like those puffed-out pantaloons they used to wear in the King's Court, circa Richard III. Oh well. I expect my little prince won't be locked up in the tower for too long. I round the curve towards the far entrance of the wood and wade thigh first into a patch of nettles. Ooh, the buggers sting. The vicious furry needles pierce my skin, stabbing their 1,000 steely knives into my calves, my knees and my thighs. I close my eyes as I back slowly out. As I shuffle, I find myself floating back in time. Scout Camp, Dingley Dell, summer 1979. It was my first year with this troop. We'd just moved from Mingdon Marsh, so I'd applied for a transfer. Well, I wanted to get the rest of me badges. It's no good tying a sheep shank if you can't hoist a jib. I knew there'd be an initiation of some sort, but I didn't bank on medieval torture. Arkela called the initiation to order, blowing on his giant horn and prompting a wave of savage goons to emerge, whooping and hollering from their tents. They swaddled me in a tight, angry circle. This isn't going to be good, I thought. And it wasn't. The head scout ordered me pegged to the ground. Well, those motley pirates didn't need any encouragement. They splayed me out like Jesus on the cross, with my arms and legs lashed to a set of tent pegs. Well, I thought this might be sufficient to satisfy their splenetic bloodlust. My hands and feet were already turning black from lack of circulation, and my screams could no doubt be heard as far as Gimli Dyke. But no. Arkela pointed to a patch of nettles poking out from behind the cub hut, and directed the feral mob to cover me head to foot. My test, I was informed, was to not move, because moving meant snapping the tips off the furry spears and getting very badly stung. My effort was perpetually hampered by the alternate administration of hot and cold water, which was meted out by a nearby hose and a campfire kettle. The balmy army left me there for 6 hours before replacing me with Nigel Lydon, who was being punished, again, for having ginger hair. When they finally chopped me down, I looked like I'd got a dose of atopic dermatitis. My mum didn't hug me for a week. I extract myself from the nasty stamp patch and wade into the chamber of light embracing the far entrance of the wood. Blimey. Mother Nature is smiling today. That sun is so bright she must have swallowed a whole bottle of her happy pills. I'd hate to be out here in the open when they wear off. I burst into the field and walk along the outer edge. Giant stalks of Goldcrest corn are standing, all in a row, ramrod straight, like lanky privates on parade. As I brush against the branches of the hedgerow and march past, I realise that, I'm standing to attention myself. The wind buffets my back and urges me on. When I reach the path by Ogden Farm, I take great pains to give them a wide berth. Harry and Camilla Ogden were not overly enthused when they caught me thrashing my ham behind their pig troughs during an earlier rendition of this wank. I were minding my own business and getting my oink on quite nicely when they popped up from behind the chicken coop and took the sizzle right out of my grizzle. Fortunately, they are an elderly couple and were not able to run very fast. I mount the rise at the top of Little Pig Hill and wind my way down the other side. This section of the Wank is steep. The path zigs and zags like a dizzy switchback on a French Alp, leading me gracefully down to a stinking mound of horse shit piled up at the bottom. The manure is from Eddie Duggett's horse farm. It's prime shit, I hear, a wonderful source of nutrients for the local corn. I tiptoe around the heap and brush under the dangly branches of a weeping willow. I know why they call this tree a weeping willow. I have wept here myself, loudly, just 2 years ago when I first blazed this wank. Well, I hadn't noticed the line of little huts standing on the other side as I splayed out in the shade. And I hadn't noticed the hand-painted sign, Bee Sanctuary, as I peeled off my pinwheels and started stroking my stinger. But I did notice a swarm of common carder bees as they buzzed through the branches and strafed me with their venom. It took 3 weeks for the swelling to die down. It still hurts when I pee. Please note, choke point 2, Little Pig Willow, has been removed from this edition. I clamber over the gate and follow the gravelly lane to the stables. Eddie Duggett's Happy Horse Farm is at the far end of the drive. You'll smell it before you see it, the unmistakable aroma of horse shit, hay and sticky glue. Just in front of the farm is an ancient druid circle. It's not quite Stonehenge. Well, it's not even close. It's smaller and much crappier. The pagans of Little Pig Hill obviously couldn't be asked to traipse any 20-foot pillars this far up the road. They only managed about 20 medium-sized boulders, but still, it's quite a feat when you consider they probably didn't have a tractor. Folk come from far and wide to stand in the centre of this circle and marvel at the ingenuity of the godless Neanderthals. Eddie Duggett isn't one of them. His tractor trail runs directly through the middle of the sacred site, thus saving him precious seconds, which would be wasted if he had to wind his way around the outside. Industrious Eddie has even toppled over a couple of boulders in an effort to carve a straighter line. Still, despite these 21st century adjustments, the circle is mostly intact, and besides, there are no naked pagans prancing about now offering a sacrifice to the gods. Well, not yet. Choke point 2, Duggett's Druid Circle. I walk over to the circle and look up. The sun is riding high. Hello there, lady. You're still with us. You are working hard today. What time is it, I wonder, as I try to compute the latitude of the blazing orb? She is looking directly down at me, so noon? What's the date? Well, it's June, I know. 20th, perhaps? 21st? It feels like this day will never end, like the sun has been hanging up there for an age. As I breach the boundary of the circle, I notice a strange object in the middle. What is that? It weren't there last time I was here. It looks oblong and out of place. Those lazy druids certainly didn't drag it here. I wander over. Huh. It's an altar. I'll take a closer look. It's not a stone altar, no. It's just a crappy fold-out table. But it is nicely adorned. It's been tarted up with a fresh white cloth, an assortment of posh-looking candles. Oh, they M&S. And a bunch of stick-figure effigies. Oh, that one looks like me. In the middle is a long clay pot holding a large cheese knife. I peek underneath the table. Oh, that looks cosy. I look around. What is going on here? There's nobody about. Is there going to be a wedding? A party? The only movement I see is the gentle swishing of the branches of the trees, and the flutter of a lonely tortoiseshell butterfly hovering over my head. Hello there. A quick breeze lifts the butterfly high and away, then runs down the back of my khaki pantaloons. Oh, I really need to put these on the right way. I pull back the side of the altar cloth and crawl under the table. This is nice. It reminds me of those homemade forts I used to make when I was a kid, when Mum and Dad were on the booze. The fort never blocked out the racket. Smashing plates and swear words can permeate anything, it seems, but it did make me feel warm and safe and secure. I loosen up my robes and start mixing my potion. In no time at all, I built up a nice rhythm. I roll onto my side. My face is mere inches from the flapping canvas. The blank sheet brushes against my nose as I grapple with my grail and prepare to offer up a sacrifice. To whom shall I make my pledge, I wonder, as I hold my chalice high? The wind, the sun, the moon? Well, I better hurry up and decide. I hereby offer up this sacrifice to the blessed god of... Oh, what's that? I jerk my head back and squint into the linen. The cloth is getting darker. Shapes. But what kind of shapes? Perhaps they're just the rocks reflecting the rotation of the sun, or... Wait, they're moving. Oh, heck. I peek through the gap in the cloth and see a dozen cars and vans rolling up outside the circle. Fucking Nora. Think, Eric, think. I flip the other way. Perhaps I can slip out this side and stab my effigy somewhere else. Yes, that will do it. Just let me... Oh, more shadows now, on the other side. And what's this? Toes poking under the sheet. Oh dear. Flip round again and peek out to see 20, 30 people pouring into the circle. They're clothed in robes and togas and... Oh, the bloke's wearing a nappy. Blimey. Each of them is waving a pole, a spear or a spike. And oh, look at that. There's a mace. The toes wiggle and then speak. Mother, son, hot with fire, let us show you our desire. We thank you for your soothing flame. Long may you live, long may you reign. Okay. I lay back and inhale the sweet scent of a lighted candle wafting down from above. A chant rises up all around. Long may you live, long may you reign. The shadows inch closer, darkening the cloth. I start to slowly hitch up my khakis bit by bit. It's not easy. I can't wriggle too much because every time I twist, my boot pokes out through the side of the cloth. Careful now. As the chant reaches a crescendo, I manage to get the khakis up over my knees, but then... What's this? There's a new smell wafting down from above. Oh no. Is that... I awake on my back and stare up into a sea of faces. I try to move, but my hands and feet appear to be bound. What? I look left and right. Oh dear. I'm pegged out like a crucifix. The crazy pagans peer down at me, circling and chanting. Long may you live, long may you reign. Are they talking about me? Oh, that's nice. I feel a few droplets of moisture splash in my face and my chest. What is this? I look up to see some of the psychopathic celebrants dousing me with squirts of liquid from their cups. What is that? Smells like Dettol. He awakes, says the one I'm guessing is the High Priestess. She's wearing a long white cloak and a chain of daisies round her neck. On her head is a crude wooden crown that looks like a cheap wicker basket. I think I've seen those in Pound Stretcher. What shall we do with the interloper? Sacrifice, yells the flock. Sacrifice. Fuck me, they changed their tune pretty quick. I look down and notice that my khakis and my undies are still wrapped around my knees. Oh dear. A bloke with a horn hat breaks through the circle of insanity and starts tossing flowers onto my naked frame. Is that Harry Ogden? Perhaps he's trying to give me back my modesty. Oh, that's nice. I wriggle and writhe and feel a sharp pain in my nether regions. Yay! What are those plants? I squint down. They look familiar. Urtica, bellows the hornhead. Let him suck the poison. That doesn't sound too good. I wriggle again. I must be able to yank my way out of here, but aye, Christ, it stings. I take a closer look at the plants. Oh, that's just great. Nettles. The pain is immense. It's like a million tiny needles rippling under my skin. I try to stay perfectly still, but the ointment is still raining down. Urtica, sacrifice. I have to make this stop. I look around for a means of escape. A friendly face in the crowd, perhaps. Someone to set me free. I catch sight of Camilla Ogden. She's not looking too friendly. She looks demented. I watch as she takes a swig of the ointment, then passes it round. What is in that cup? Maybe it's Jim Jones juice. With any luck, they'll all be dead in a minute. I writhe again and feel the needle scraping across my belly. Oh, I need a miracle here. If only I could find a way to go to sleep and wake up when it was all over. I watch as the high priestess floats towards me with her thurible rocking side to side. Her spare hand is clutching the cheese knife. Oh no. The incense is billowing out. A ginormous plume puffs out the top and settles over my face. I wait for a second and then take a long, deep breath. That was Wanking in the Lake District by Eric Thistlethwaite. If you enjoyed Wanking in the Lake District, join Eric next week as he takes us handjobbing in the Highlands. We'll go from the Isle of Arran to the Isle of Arran a little faster, and on to the Isle of I fell into a bush and got arrested for indecent exposure.